You're listening to The Table Talk with your host, Anthony Irvin, a.k.a. Spoken Light. Tune in every other Thursday starting at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with me and a new special guest live on Facebook and Twitch. Without further ado, let's start the show. What's up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of Table Talk. This is episode 26. Thank you all for being here tonight. I am so hyped to do this tonight with a friend of mine that we have gone many years. It's been a couple years since we've actually had a good conversation. We were talking last night about playing at the deck back in our local area. So it's been many years since we actually played a show together, talked music. So it was good to get to talk to him before the show tonight. And if you guys want to check out some of the bonus footage that's going to be happening right after the show tonight airs, make sure you guys are joining and subscribing to the Table Talk Patreon page over on Patreon. That's patreon.com/table_talk. We are building a private community over there, and I would love to see you guys be there. It starts at a $1 all the way up to $5. So nothing too expensive, but I would love to see and show your support for the show. If you like to see extra content, there's bonus footage. You can get audio downloads, video downloads, and I'm working on one of the perks right now. There was a certain perk on there, and I'm trying to work it out to get a little bit more in detail with that. But if you're on the Patreon, you can be able to get and write some ideas on what that new perk should be. So thank you for my Patrons who have been so supportive. Bernadette, David, and Mary, thank you for your continued support. Love you guys. And again, that's patreon.com/table_talk. So, without further ado, let's get to tonight's special guest. I'm looking forward to having a great time with him. Let's say hello to Owen Crowley, everybody.
What's up, man?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm really excited to be here tonight, and really honored you brought me on. I'm excited.
Yes, man. Glad to have you here. What's been up?
Life after COVID, I feel like we're all still recovering a little bit, but it's been good. I took the year to just catch up on music, and I'm doing well. How are things going with you?
Things are going good. Like I said, since things are kind of starting to go back to normal, even though, we're starting to see things that are kind of starting to slip the other way. But, it's been good to kind of see some type of normalcy, and, shows are starting to come back for a lot of people. I'm starting to get more offers, and, so it's really good to get back into playing a little bit more often instead of looking at my camera here every night.
So hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. I love the audience that I built here, but there's nothing like that true, physical interaction with an audience. Nothing like
Agreed.
it, man. And it's one thing if people don't necessarily from a non-musician's point of view, if they don't know how it feels to kind of have that high of getting in front of an audience and having that reaction. It's kind of hard to explain, but when it's just when you're away from it for a while, you start. At least for me, I start getting real itchy to be okay, I need to do something. So
it was paralyzing for me, man. The very last show I played before COVID started was back in December. I don't know if anyone watching is going to know this, but shout out to the Soda Bar. They're not around anymore, but we played a great house show at Temple at the Soda Bar. Nice. It was December 14th. They packed the house. It was a great basement show, and everyone was just losing their minds, and we're screaming at the top of our lungs with everybody.
That's awesome.
And that was just one of the best highs to have. I wish I knew it was the last one for a little while, so I could enjoy it a little bit more, but it was phenomenal. And I think I'm excited. I'm going to start hitting some open mics soon, and awesome. I'm excited to start having some friends get together and, booking some more shows.
Yeah, man. And like I said, that's how I got started with booking open mics, and just kind of, I did a whole, local tour based off just doing open mic features. I would
Yeah.
just call a bunch of open mic bars and restaurants and stuff and say, hey, I know you have an open mic on this night. And I got in contact with the people that were running it and said I would love to be a featured artist. And, I would either, be a featured artist for that night, so I would get an actual longer set than just like 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Or if I couldn't get a featured spot, I would at least go there and do my 10, 15-minute or 2, 3 song set. And it was
Yeah.
fun, because I got to not only play different open mics but different venues and playing in front of different crowds and different vibes every night, so it was definitely a fun experience, and it's I guess you can't really necessarily say it's like a booking like a tour or anything, but I know
Yeah.
everybody has like their opinions on like especially like the weekender tours and like, oh,
Yeah.
is a weekend tour really a tour, or like, so it's like
I mean, if you're doing every weekend for the whole year, sure, yeah, we'll
Yeah,
count that. But
but say like, oh well, we played 3 shows this week, like cool. Like, but then they try to do like the tri-states and everybody's like, well, that's not necessarily a tour, but like
Yeah.
so I mean, hey, whatever makes you happy. I would
Exactly.
in my mind, if you're going from a state to state a couple days out of the week, that's somewhat of a tour. I mean, it may not be like a full U.S. tour that you're playing 30 days, 30 nights, but it's
Yeah.
still something. If you're getting your name out there and playing in front of a different crowd every night in a different market, it's someone like a tour to you, and
Exactly. And that's the thing. There's too much bad blood around the idea of touring. Like you're saying you're doing these open mics. To me, man, that's touring. That's
Yeah.
touring in and of itself because you're saying, look, I'm getting out there. I'm not just playing once a year. If you're doing like a couple open mics or you're playing a show or two here and there, then it's like, yeah, maybe don't call it a tour. But if you're really putting the effort in that year to just get yourself out there as much as
Yeah.
possible, call it whatever the heck you want to call it. One of my last bands way back when, we even, oh my god, I forget what we called it, but it was like some sort of like winter fall tour or whatever. And then we made a t-shirt of it and we put it on the
Nice.
back of the shirt. It was
And people
literally
eat
just
those things up,
loved it. But the thing was, it was just all of the shows we had played over the last 3-4 months and the next 3-4 months, and we were just like, all right, let's just throw it all together, call it a tour, and call it a day. And it didn't matter because at the end of the day, as long as you're getting out there, just do whatever you want to do,
Absolutely. But for the people who may not know you, Owen, how about you give everybody a background of who you are?
I will do my best. Hey everybody, my name's Owen. I'm now going under the artist name of Enley. You may know me from way back from either Take 3, Nightlife, or more recently Perpetuals. I was the lead singer for Perpetuals, one of the writers. We dropped 6-7 singles, had a couple of them get up to 50,000, which was amazing to see last year on Spotify,
Nice.
even with COVID craziness. But
Right.
sadly, the band is taking a good hard pause right now. You can call it a breakup, you can call it what you will, but we're all still keeping in touch. And I kind of just decided that, after really taking some time for myself and working on my mental health this past year, come June, I was just like, you know what? I want to get back into music. I spent a good while just not really even being able to listen to music. And then as I built my mental health and built myself back up, I finally was like, this is, what I'm meant to do. This is my calling. This is what I love doing. And it doesn't mean I got to drop everything else and quit all my other jobs or whatever else. But I was just like, let's write. And I had 20, 30 songs come out. And I was just calling up every artist friend, producer friend I knew. I was like, get over here. I got 3 ideas. Let's just write. And then work out crazy. So I had to put it on pause. But yeah, that was a whole long tangent just to say, hey, I'm Owen. I'm going by Enley now. And I sing, play guitar, piano, bass. Singing's my main thing. I'm getting a lot more into production, and I'm hoping to release my own produced music this next year. Hopefully 1 song a month, but we'll see what we can get.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. And you were saying about taking like the time for your mental health, and it's a shame with whatever with everything that we're going through. But I was telling a lot of people like maybe this is something that we all just needed. We needed like a break, like a
Yeah,
mental break from everything we're stuck in from our everyday lives. Like we're so consumed with this, so consumed with that,
it's too
but
much. It's too
everything
much.
shut down and we were stuck at home. And that really, I mean, there's a lot of people that it really put people in a bad position. But I think for some people it's like hey, I got to be able to do things I didn't have time to do with I got like a certain project done, or I
Yeah.
been doing this thing that I've been putting off for a couple months. And especially from a music standpoint, I felt like I upgraded a lot of my gear. I kind of like revamped a lot of things to be like, okay, because when, I might as well put some type of positivity to this time that we have, because when things come back, I don't want to be the same old person up on stage. I want to be like,
Yeah.
hey, I revamped myself, and this is like not even just like a new me, but like, hey, I took my time, like,
Yeah.
and
The
made something of it.
evolved, the
Yeah,
leveled up version.
yes,
Yeah.
like like an evolved, leveling up, and yeah,
Yeah.
and I want people to see that like, hey, I mean, he didn't just like take that time and just sat around and just said, oh well, I wish we were doing this, and I wish, but taking that and flipping and turning it into a positive, and
Yeah.
trying to just always be a better you, and always try to challenge yourself. And because a lot of people, when it comes to challenges, sometimes, I mean, challenges can be scary because you never know what they can bring. But
You don't
sometimes we
know
need
what's
those
on the other
challenges
end.
to kind of rattle the system, to kind of like
Yeah.
to bring some new light into certain things. Sometimes challenges can make you that much of a better person you never thought you can be.
I could not agree more with you on that. And I am honestly blessed to have had the awful, awful year that I did last year, because it taught me so much about
Hmm.
life, about myself, personal
Yeah.
relationships. And like I was talking a little bit about my mental health. I'll share a little bit on that. But
Hmm.
it was probably around November when Perpetuals finally just started to call it quits. We
Uh
had
huh.
a group meeting, and this was my everything. This was like my little baby of a project. We had tours planned, we had an album planned, we had so much music, and then COVID happened.
Yeah.
It turned my life upside down,
Right.
and I was scared to death. I had no idea what was to come. And it was a really, really terrifying time, because I finally was left with my own thoughts and my own demons. And I finally was like, I need help. I really
Yeah.
need help. I can't keep going like this. And, I started going to therapy, seeing some doctors, and after 6 8 months now of working on things, and getting diagnosed with ADHD, anxiety, depression,
Hmm.
working through those things, working through this massive mental block of, like I said, not even being able to listen to music for 6 months after a
Right.
whole life of music, and that was all I knew, and now I can't even listen to it without just like almost being in physical pain, it felt like.
Right.
um, but getting through those things and getting to a point now where it's August. This time last year, I was terrified to even show bits of myself, but
Hmm.
now I'm so comfortable just being like, I'm just going to show myself. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, I love myself, and that's
Yeah.
okay. And people harp on self love so much, but it is the most important thing in this world. I don't care what anyone else has got to say. If you do not wake up loving yourself,
Hmm.
please reach out to a friend, family member, therapist, doctor, whoever it might be, because you gotta face yourself to face anything else in this life. And it's just been beautiful, and I'm excited for you and everyone else to hear the music that manifests from all that has really come together over this past year and a half.
Yeah, man, I look forward to it because it seems like you've kind of had a big boom of like
Yeah.
inspiration, and that's like the best thing when it comes like when you have those big moments of like you get this creative side, this thing that comes out of that, and you're like, whoa, like you can't like take the time to be like whoa, brain, like let me just write this down before you get to the next
Yeah.
one, and that's kind
I
of how
swear, I'm going on drives, and I'm like, all right, hey Siri, write a new note,
Yeah.
and it's like every 5 minutes, I'm like, all right, song idea, business idea, another marketing, text this guy, yeah,
Even Siri's like, calm down, please.
yeah.
Like,
You need to chill.
right.
Just calm down, son. Calm down. Just a little
I
bit.
think, and the fact that I've really started to, take advantage of like the voice notes and voice memos when it
Mhm.
comes to like, when you have an idea or a melody or something that comes to your head, I have like so many different things in my phone now that it's like, but I'll look at them a couple weeks later. I'll be like, what was I thinking there? And then, or like this and that. But I'm like, in the moment, you're like, yeah, this sounds really good. And
Yeah.
it's good to kind of go back to ideas because that's kind of how my latest single was. Like I had written something down and put it in a voice memo and never really touched it for about 2-3 years.
Oh
And
wow.
and then I was like, well, I need something new out. And I didn't really have any inspiration or ideas, but I knew I had some stuff in my phone. So I come across this thing that I made, and I'm like, okay, this is like coming around, and then
Yeah.
it just blossomed into a brand new song, and just all it needed was lyrics, and it's almost like you said, it just came out of nowhere, and knew what to write, what to put in
What the
there.
song needed. I swear,
Yeah.
voice memos is every musician's little book of hidden archives. It's their little
Mm-hmm.
library that's hidden away. And then, like, if somebody picked up my phone, they'd be like, "What? 500 voice? Why do you have so many?"
Right, dude.
But
Like
then
Charlie
you play
Puth.
any.
That he's like the voice memo person because I think he wrote a whole album and I think it was called like voice memos or voice notes or something
Really?
because it was based off all like voice memos on his phone. He did a whole
That's
album of
crazy.
like ideas that he had from his phone. And I think he called it like uh it was called like voice
I think
memos or voice notes.
voice notes sounds
Voice notes or
familiar. So
something.
it might be that.
If
Yeah.
anybody's watching and they know the album, let us know. But I know it's
Yeah.
something within around those lines. But yeah, and it was cool. And I was watching a lot of his productions, and he's just showing how he took it from his phone, uploaded it into his Pro Tools, and did this and do that. And I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
that's like the creative side of the world today. It's just like you can do anything.
You got no excuses, And
No.
if you and listen, I am chock full of them. So I am not one to be saying, there's no excuses because I wake up every day and I got about 20 excuses
But
just ready to rip
Yeah,
off the bat.
the producers from like the 60s are like had to been like if they were looking at today and like, dude, you guys got it easy.
Just
Like
drooling at everything
we
we
have to
access
do everything
now.
in 4 tracks and you guys have unlimited tracks to work with.
Yeah.
It's crazy like how looking at a lot of old music and looking at the stems and seeing like they worked with 4 tracks but they had like multiple instruments and vocals on like even one track. I'm like,
Yeah.
how is that even possible? But then
Yeah.
like so it's amazing. It's really cool to like see how they recorded back then with just a minimal amount of stuff, and then now looking like you have Pro Tools and Logic and Ambient and all those others that you can have unlimited amount of tracks and unlimited amount of plugins, unlimited amount of this, just to say like just write a song.
Yeah. And that now you have like 4 tracks just for like the bass drum or something, It's
Oh yeah, yeah, and
it's
yeah.
ridiculous.
Right. It's crazy. Like how
Oh
we
my
were
God.
talking that you have so many different things that you can do with just one track and then duplicating that and just like how we sometimes people will use a bass track, they'll duplicate that and then use a
Yeah.
bass DI and then a bass amp and then they kind of mix that and then that's like your whole sound.
Yeah.
And when I saw that I'm like, that's pretty smart. And then you listen to it like that sounds good. Like, and I've been
Yeah.
wondering how you get that type of tone, and you never know. It's just 2 different types of sounds, kind of meshed together. You're like,
Yeah,
wow.
I saw something really great the other day. I can't remember from. It was probably on like another music podcast or whatever. I think it was like the what, mixing with the masters, like one
Yes.
of those like short clips that I saw on like TikTok or YouTube or something, and it was the guy who mixed who was it, Phoenix's song Litzomania,
Hmm.
and he's walking through how he came up with the synth part,
Yeah.
and that synth is like the thing that just ties that song together, and like I hear just one note of that synth and I'm like, oh my God, yes. And it just takes me back to every moment I've listened to that song.
Hmm.
But what he goes on to say is that so many people are focused on, oh, it's got to be the best this, the best that, the best this, the best that. He's like, but think about it. You have the best this and the best that, they're going to cancel each other out.
Right.
But if you have the best, I don't know, guitarist, take, I think the example was like Jack White,
Hmm.
phenomenal guitarist, but he's taking this like $5 plastic guitar, turning it into something and creating some crazy, amazing sound that no one's heard of.
Right.
And he's like, look, the secret is really just take something that's seemingly awful or bad and something that's seemingly amazing, put it together and just create something new, create something unique. And that just like opened a door in my mind. I was like sitting down like, whoa, that's I was like, yeah, I felt like I could approach every aspect of music from that area, because I feel like as musicians that also like mix and produce like you do,
Hmm.
we get so caught up in the perfectionism of it,
Yes. Yes.
I feel like you just get carried away. And we talked about this last night, that there's so many different brackets of, you got to be patient with yourself, because there's the creative side that wants to write everything.
Hmm.
But then there's the side that needs to add the production, little pop hits here and there throughout.
Right.
And then also the mixing side that has the strict rules, and then even mastering. Because if you're going into the mixing phase with the creative mindset of, oh, I'm still adding to the song or producing, I think our example last night was just like, oh yeah, I really love hearing drums that kick right now. But if you have that on a song that does not need drums right in your face,
Yeah.
it's not gonna go.
And then sometimes, some things that may not be traditional in that genre, it's sometimes good to sometimes have it, because it'd be like, okay, it's unique, and it could sometimes be like, okay, well, this is like a transition period into some type of genre, when this is not the mix of what maybe a pop song might be, but like,
Yeah.
so sometimes it may work. Sometimes it's like, yeah, you don't need a whole bunch of bass drum. You don't need, but it's like you'd want to have a big pumping bass, but you don't need a lot of bass drum and snare and kick and everything. But so it's good to kind of know your genres when you're doing a lot of your music production.
Yeah.
But it's good also when you're doing your own production, because you can be your own person, and you don't have to necessarily stay within the rules. You can kind of look at your references, look at how these songs are made, how this is going, where this is going, but you can be your own creator in whatever type of music. And that's kind of how I did a lot of my music. I didn't really try to I listened to a lot of music, I listened to a lot of influences, but I've never tried to be like somebody. And I sometimes think that's probably what has held me back in a lot of things, because when 9 times out of 10 when people listen to new music, like, well, who do you sound like?
Yeah.
And I've never really been like, oh, well, I sound like him, or I sound like that band, because I've never wanted to try to be like another insert artist.
Yeah.
I wanted to be myself. But it's also good to say like, hey, these are my influences, and you can probably see that in there, but I don't necessarily sound like that person.
I couldn't agree. I feel like you have to toe that line, because for me, for so long, I did have the mentality of, oh my God, I absolutely love, like one of my all-time favorites is Young the Giant. And they were a huge inspiration to all of the music I wrote, sang, every aspect of it. And when I finally started getting people being like, oh my God, yeah, you guys sound like Young the Giant, I was like, yay! Wait. No.
Right. Like it's almost like a curse in a way too, because then you're like, well, you don't want to sound like that person. You it's good to have influence and be like, it's good that you sound like it, but you don't want to be another, Young the Giant. You want to be want to be Owen, who took influences from that band, you know. So
Influences, I like it. I'm going to
influences,
use
that's a
that
new
from
word.
now.
Hashtag.
Yeah. Hashtag influence. If you're watching this
Influence.
evening, add that on the Twitter feed. We got a whole live feed going now.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I don't know. It's, music is really ever changing, especially as of late. I feel like, especially with TikTok and things, we're going into the world of 15-second songs.
Mm-hmm.
You had the idea of saying, you know what, I'm just going to put a whole bunch of ideas on TikTok, and if people like it, then hey, maybe I'll turn that into a song. And I think that's
Yeah.
one of the best pieces of advice you could give to any new artist or band. It's just start putting stuff out there, whether it's on SoundCloud, TikTok. It doesn't have to be perfect, but then try to get a response from people. See
Yeah.
how you respond to that. And even if they love it and maybe it gets 500,000 views and this and that, is that you? Is that true to yourself and what you
Right.
love doing? Because, you got to toe the line with that even, and just feel what's best and what's right for you.
Exactly. Yeah, man. It's fun being a creator, fun having that type of freedom. But yeah, my mom's been watching, so thank you, Mom. Really glad you've been enjoying the show.
See you, Bernadette. Thank you.
But along the way, from when we're talking about influences, I love a lot of John Mayer lately. Like his new
Oh,
album has been and going from a traditional like he's never really, this is like an album that like it seems like he's always wanted to do, but he's never really gotten to that point. So it seems like he's wanted to always write like an 80s inspired thing, and he hit the nail on the head with it.
oh my
Like,
God. It
every
took
track
me
is,
right to the Eagles. I was
oh yeah,
listening and I was like, okay, cool. So I'm going to drive for the next, I don't even know, 10 hours and just have it on repeat. It just
right.
felt so good. It was a
Yeah,
great
and
album.
and the dude can't write a bad song.
No,
I mean, to me at
it's not
least. I know
possible.
some people are not John Mayer fans. That's cool, but he for our generation, I feel John is top tier. I mean,
Oh, yeah. I couldn't agree
he's another
more.
type of animal. But
Yeah.
and when it comes to him, like Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, all like the great guitar people, because the guitar has kind of always been my number one staple, and I grew up with a lot of Jimi Hendrix and Beatles.
Yeah.
Beatles definitely really helped me with learning chord progressions and learning to change in between those things, because their early music was just like so influential, and you can see a lot of that in today's music too. But
Yeah.
again, totally different bandwagon of conversation. But it's good to say that hey, this kind of sounds like the Beatles, but I don't want it to be another Beatles song. They've
Yeah.
done that. It's
Yeah.
good to say like, yeah, this kind of came from an inspiration from a song. You can hear it, but it's like so it's like I think I've just kind of made the sense of it, saying like
Yeah.
you don't want to be the Beatles. You want to be inspired by the Beatles, to say this is something that I wrote to be inspired by the Beatles from. So
All right. So with that said, what are your thoughts on Greta Van Fleet?
you know
Hey,
I haven't listened to
I'll
them
jump
enough.
in just by your initial reaction. I can assume I agree, but I'll let you.
Here's the thing. I haven't given them enough chance, because everybody's thought is
Yeah.
they sound too much like Led Zeppelin, or they're the next
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin. That's cool. I haven't given them the chance to really listen to them, and the times that I have, I'm like, I could see everybody's point of saying like they sound like Led Zeppelin, or they're trying to be like the next Led Zeppelin, which is fine. Everybody has
Yeah.
that type. Like we had, what was the band called? The Darkness.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they were like a traditional, like 80s hair metal band
Yep.
that was like rolling in the 90s. I loved
Oh, and they
that.
killed
I
it. They
loved
were
their
phenomenal.
stuff. They were
Yeah.
awesome. So, it's cool to kind of see that inspired band that like, hey, this is our main influence. We're not trying to say that we're the next Led Zeppelin, but this is our biggest influence, and this is where we get our inspiration from.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and it's one thing, that's how you want to get your fans in. If you like Led Zeppelin, then here you go. And that's,
Yeah.
and,
That is true.
and especially with the internet today, going with the internet, the more buzz you get around saying like, oh, well, this band sounds like this, or this band, the more like it's almost bad. Like the more bad publicity you get, the more people
Oh
listen
yeah.
to you. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
almost like you
Oh yeah.
want to be a bad influence or a bad something so you can get people to listen and be like, oh, okay, well, they're actually really good, or oh, I can see where they're
Yeah.
going,
My
so
my one buddy Tom, he just pop punk, crazy pop punk guy, phenomenal drummer. Everybody I know who needs drums, they go to him for the the crazy pop punk or metal or just some
right.
really intense, awesome. Like he'll give you that energy type
Mm-hmm.
of drums. Um, when it comes to artists like MGK, he is so upset because people are like, "Oh my god, he's like the god of pop punk," and my buddy is like pulling his hair out. He's like, "No!"
Right.
But I will say, on the other hand, it's beautiful to see how much it's inspiring him to say,
Yeah.
screw this, I'm gonna put out my first solo pop punk album, because he's worked with a bunch of different bands. He's a guy that just
Mm-hmm.
hey, you need a pop punk drummer, I'll be there, kind of thing. Like he played with everybody, but he never really did his own thing. And
Right.
I'm finally starting to work with him on that end, and I'm excited to see what he puts out, because his brain is there. He knows,
Right.
like, pop punk is flowing through his blood. So I'm excited to see what he puts together, and see if he can get up to MGK's level and just play off the Twitter feeds like Lil Nas X has been doing, and see if he can create some of his own beats.
And I can't really say I'm the biggest MGK fan. I can, from a musician standpoint, I can respect him trying to, get out that creative side of like, hey, this is a type of music I love, and I want to see where it takes me. I mean, I know I have this niche of fan base. They may not respond to it real well, but this is something that as a musician I got to get out of it. And it's almost like the same way I feel for like Post Malone. He's more of a rapper, but he has that rock side to him, and he likes a lot of heavy music, and I'm a heavy metal guy, and he likes a lot of the bands that I listen to. So I'm like, okay, hey, and then you get to the point where you hear these people so much, you're like, I don't really like his music too much, but then you start listening, you're like, I'm starting to get catched onto it a little bit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he does have a couple good ones, and I will say, I mean, from a music standpoint, I mean, it's catchy stuff.
It's catchy. Yeah, no, don't get me wrong.
And trust me, there's a lot, and I feel there's a lot of mainstream stuff out there today that it's like, it's just so recycled, rinse, repeat and stuff. But then there's some guys that are out, guys and girls, can't be, one-sided, but, there are some artists out there. There are some artists out there that are doing it the right way, but then there's like a lot of like the artists that are just like, we've heard this before. I want to bring up I keep bringing up the fact that T-Pain, there was a thing out there that he's like, you guys got to keep doing something else. Stop sending me the same stuff. We have the baby. We have Little Baby and all this other stuff. He's like, we already have these people doing this stuff. Sing something else. I was crying laughing. But it's so true, though. Everybody like says like, oh, well, if this is what's hot, I want to be the next person to do that. Like, but that's already been done.
It's been exactly.
So you can't keep doing that. You got to do something else.
Use it for inspiration. I need to get this out. The last other artist I'm going to mention was way back, and this we could transition, but we got a long tangent of artists we're talking about. But this is amazing for me to just bring up real quick. Way back when, the artist Logic, when he first started coming out in 2014, 2015, and he's starting to blow up.
Right.
My brother, who's like 5-6 younger than I am, he was really into Logic's mixtapes on SoundCloud before, like 3 years before he even hit iTunes and Spotify, like any of that stuff. And he kept pushing him on me, and I was like, all right. And then one day I was like, all right, this is awesome. So I kind of stepped away from the Logic stuff, got a little bit older. I was like, all right, I'll leave that in the past. But then something came over me today, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go back and listen to, I think it was The Incredible True Story, and the first song on that album, Contact. I blasted that album my whole drive to work today, and I was like, man, this is the type of stuff. He's one of those guys that he did a similar thing. Later, he came out with the album Supermarket. He was
Yeah.
like, hey, I got alternative acoustic backgrounds. And I never really understood that. But now that I've grown so much from a producer standpoint, and I'm like, oh, I can transition what I've learned on guitar to keys when I'm just throwing on synth pads, or I'm throwing on all this extra stuff to just make it a little more poppier. And all that he was doing, the vocal layering, all of the synth layering, and it was just so beautiful to hear that. And I'm going to throw a little shout out. If you have not checked them out, Spitfire Audio, BBC Symphony. It's not a small company by any means, so the shout out doesn't mean anything coming from me. It's just saying, if you are a producer, go get to their website right now, because you sign up just for their mailing list or whatever, their email list. And in 14 days, they send you the plugin for free. Now, this patch is the full BBC Symphony Orchestra.
Wow.
And you can go through and you can change all these different things. You're going to choose the instruments. You can layer them. And I was messing around with it, and then listening to Logic this morning, I was like, oh my God, I can almost do what he's doing. And I can hear one of the songs that I kind of threw together the other night from an alt rock standpoint that sounded very similar to what he did, just on a hip hop track. You know, it was the drum that made it was the drums and the rapping that said, okay, this is a hip hop song. But the synth, all of that stuff that was on it, all of the other pieces, the layering from guitar, bass, piano, all of that was alternative rock. And it's just so beautiful to see him combine that, and so many people not even recognize that, to the point where he comes out with Supermarket and everyone's like, what the hell are you doing, man? Why are you doing this? But it's so awesome. And I'm so excited, because I'm hoping that I can incorporate some of that mentality that you were talking about, of just, not really caring what genre it is on whatever song you're putting out there, and saying, I'm going to take a little bit of this, that, this, and say I'm similar to Greta Van Fleet or Logic or this or that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm going to have my own sound, because it's just going to take what I found so unique, combined with my own uniqueness. And I think that's what's so fascinating about being able to produce and mix some of your own music recently. Are there any crazy plugins that have inspired you recently with any music that you're working on?
Well, I do got to say, I think we were talking about this before, but there was a plugin by Neural DSP.
Yes.
They just put out the Celdano amplifier. If anybody's into, any guitar player out there who either has or has played a Celdano amplifier, I mean, it's one of the original high gain amplifiers that, now somebody can correct me if I'm wrong about this. I think it's like one of the original high gain amps that kind of started, that high gain scene. But, so I've never really got to play around with it, but, again, we live in a world today that you can, not only own these amplifiers, if you don't get the actual physical amplifier, you can go and get a plugin of it now for way cheaper. I mean, I don't think that, they are pretty dead on, but you're still never going to get the same thing as an original amplifier.
Of course,
although these plugins are pretty darn close to getting and nailing it 100%. And, John Mayer was saying the fact that, I think the only thing that these amp sims are missing is the fact that your play style with some of the amplifiers, when you're playing an actual amplifier, depending on how, heavy or loose you're playing the strings, the amp's going to respond to that. Where I think some amp sims don't have that response time yet. So I think that's where he's like, I'm still like on the fence of but I think he did say he used an Axe-FX Fractal on the new album. So I think he's starting to, dip into amp sims and stuff. But, I feel going back into, not going too much off of it, but, I was messing with the Celdano amplifier, and one of the presets on there was like an ambient, dreamy, and I think the preset was called Dream. And it's like a ambient, really echoey, type of sound, and I'm like, oh, this sounds really good, because I was in the mood for finding a really cool ambient tone, because I've always liked ambient, you know, music, and that type of tone. I'm like, I really want to get that type of tone, and I was
Yeah.
searching for it, and I'm like, wow, that's awesome. I got it. And again, something pops in your brain, and I'm like, oh, I just found something, I want to write it. And then I just, you know, recorded it, threw a drum thing on there, I put a little bass on there, and you know, it's something I may come out with, you know, later down the line. It's a full instrumental. It's like it's a 1 minute thing that I wrote. But hey, again,
TikTok.
with either TikTok or just even
Yeah.
any social media, you know, people are really drawn into, you know, very quick, you know, things, because you're scrolling all day through your apps and stuff. And I think we can both agree, if you're scrolling with something and if it doesn't take interest to you within 5 seconds, if 5 seconds,
Goodbye.
you're scrolling back up. And if you
Yeah.
see something, it's like, oh, and it's like a fraction of a second, you're like, oh, I like this. Then you're gonna
Yeah.
listen to it for maybe a couple more seconds, and if it continues to interest you, you realize, oh, I've listened to this for like 4 minutes.
Yeah.
So
For those listening, watching in, or coming back to this, I don't think I heard you mention it, but what did you end up naming that one?
So the preset was called Dream, and for my reference, I referenced it as Dreams, because I'm like,
It's got to be Dreams. It's got to be
so
Dreams.
so I'm like, okay. I mean, that's the only thing that's gonna, and it'll keep me influenced to be like, okay, that's the type of mindset that I was in at that time, to be like, okay, it's a dreamy type thing. So I'm like, all right, cool. I got to think like dreams or something. So
This is I in Perpetuals. I'm sorry to anyone from Perpetuals that knows Perpetuals. Anyone else watching that has to hear this. But 2 years ago, when we were in the writing phase and we're playing shows out in Westchester and wherever, we wrote this great new song, you know, and I just kept having it go in my head. I'm like, yeah, this is like a really inspirational song. It had one of those like U2-esque breaks near the end where, you know, he's just like shouting and all this stuff, and you have no idea what he's saying, but it's just pumping you up. You could feel it. I'm like, yeah, it's just such an inspirational song. And we're like, you know, messing around. We're like, all right, what the heck are we gonna name this thing? I'm like, I got it, because I had the voice memo. I'm like, Inspirational. Just inspirational. That's it. Not inspirational. Spiration. Not even a word. Not even a word.
No.
But the song did not get released, thankfully.
Hey,
it
that's
may
the
see
creative
the
side
light
of it. You just think of things. You're like, you think of good things at the time. You're like, this may catch on, but then you don't release. You're like, okay, and then you realize you're like, I'm glad that never happened. So.
Yeah. I'll be honest. Now that I'm thinking about it, as soon as I was like, yeah, it didn't get released, I'm like, hold on. That might have actually been the song that eventually became the last song that Perpetuals released, which is "Waking Up." I'm gonna have to double check on that, because that was again one that, you know, we just pulled out of voice memos. We had it sitting there for a while, and we're like, oh, that's a cool guitar lick, whatever. And then all 4 or 5 of us are sitting around, just threw it all together within 15 minutes. We're like, awesome, inspirational, done. Played it at the set we were playing that night, and yeah, was very embarrassed when I actually spoke the word "inspirational" out loud to the crowd. But you can't take it back. You know, it's out there. It's gone. What did he say?
What did he say?
Inspirational. He did in fact say a non-existing word, but it's fine. It's fine.
Just go with it. Just go with it.
Exactly. We were having fun.
So, I think we're getting to that point of the show where we're going to spin the table talk wheel, everybody. So, if you're just watching this for the first time, we have a table talk spin wheel that has 3 different topics. We have a top 5, a little game show called This or That, or a regular topic question. We're going to spin this, and we are going to see what we come up with tonight, if my internet is working with me tonight. So, let's spin this. Let's see what we get here. Sometimes it goes right in the middle. Okay, this or that. And I get to use my little soundbite. This or that. This or that, everybody.
Woo! I love it.
I'm getting real producer up in here. The video production of this is getting so substantial. I love it. But yeah, this or that. So this or that is a small little game show, and we played it a couple times with a couple other guests. So we're basically taking two different topics or things, and you pick what your it's kind of like a quick answer type thing. You pick the first one that you like, and we do a couple and we talk about them. So here we go. And if people watching in the chat, feel free to, give your choices in the chat as well. Or if you're watching later on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, leave your answers in the comments. And make sure you guys are, following, subscribing, leave a review for Table Talk. It helps out the show, and it helps us out with the charts and everything. So here we go, Owen. First one. So morning or night?
Morning.
Morning.
Do you want me to elaborate, or are we just going?
You can elaborate, yeah.
Each one.
Yeah, if you
I'm starting to box. I'm like, all right, let's go.
If you have a little bit more, then yeah. Well, if you have a little bit more, yeah, we can go. So you're morning. So you're a morning person?
I never ever was until literally 12 days ago, when I finished reading, believe it or not, a book called The 5 a.m. Club. We were talking about mental health earlier, and I want to keep going. I want to keep boxing, but just to say a little thing about what I got going on, that has been the most motivational and transformative book that I've ever read. It's really inspiring, and I really push anyone that is in a rut or just looking to add another great book to their list. Definitely check that out. You start your day with 20 minutes of working out real hard, 20 minutes of self-reflection, yoga, journaling, 20 minutes of, learning and growth. And that's just the beginning of it. And, the story behind the book itself is really beautiful. So that is the 5 a.m. Club, 12 days of waking up at 5 a.m. Tough, but feeling better than I ever have. And it's really nice.
It sounds like a very interesting book, and I'd also like to add, if you eventually have a kid, that will come into play too. They'll get you up at 5:30 in the morning too, without any harm. They'll be like, "Hey, I'm up." Like, I guess I'm up too. So
no more alarms. No. Oh my god, the new puppy we got. She's.
I can't remember the last time I set an alarm.
Oh, the new puppy is a great alarm too. If she's got to go, you'll know it.
They'll let you know too.
A little quick warning, either licking your foot or your face, and if you don't move, you got about 5 seconds before you got a paw right in your face. And definitely made waking up at 5 a.m. easier. That's all I'll say about that. But all right, let's get the next one. Let's keep going.
Next one, rain or snow?
Snow.
Okay.
It's beautiful.
Okay. And I'll add with the morning and night, I'm more of a night person. But again, with having a kid, it's kind of been a little bit of both. And rain or snow, I'm a snow person too. I don't mind the rain, but I'm not a winter person. I'm a winter person when it's snowing. If it's going to be cold, it better snow. If it's cold for no reason, I hate it.
It's like, what's the point? If you're gonna get to this temperature, just give us a little bit of snow, just a little bit.
Just bring it down.
But then the worst part is always the slush the day after.
Then that's the worst too.
I wish.
I think that's the most amount of workouts that I had in like the last year, because I never even went to a gym like all within like a year and a half. I'm like, well, showing that snow was like being in the gym, and that gave me my whole workout for like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So next one.
All right.
Boat or a plane?
Woo! Oh, I gotta be fast. I'm gonna say plane. Plane. I'm gonna say plane. Okay. That was a real tough one for me, just because I was just at the beach recently. I love the ocean. I love just being at the beach. That is my peace, my serenity. But plane, just because I would never skydive, but just the feeling of flying and knowing you're
not a
on your
skydive
way
person.
to that.
My
Just
wife wants to do it. I'm like, I'll see you on the bottom. That's fine.
I'll be waiting here.
I'll be right here to catch
Not gonna catch you because I'm, if you're falling, good luck. God bless.
Right.
But my whole thing with planes is I love getting on a plane. I don't even care if it's for, a quick little flight just to an hour, 2 hours away. I'm just like,
Right.
you know what? Being on a plane to me just symbolizes the beginning of a new adventure, and it's so exciting because that has always felt like a nice little reset for me because you're out of control. You literally have no power in that situation. You are thousands of feet up, or not thousands. How many feet would you get? Yeah, thousands of feet up in the air.
I
Yeah.
know it's a lot. I know it's a
a lot of feet up in the air.
That's a lot of feet up in the air.
Wait. Anyway, you're
If
way
you can
up
see
there.
a whole state from up there, you're up there pretty high.
It's been a long day. All I'm going to say is when you're thousands of feet up in the air, the pilot's got full control and you're just sitting there. It's kind of a peaceful situation, as scary as it can be for some, because, you really got your full faith and trust in that plane, and hopefully it's going to get you there. And if not, then I hope you had a great life up to that point. And it's just like a nice little life reset for me.
Yeah.
Hopefully that wasn't too dark for some people.
So let's get into the next. It's tea or coffee.
Coffee.
I'm a coffee person too. I don't mind tea, but I'm usually a go-to for coffee usually.
It's funny. We're both singers, and everyone's like, "You gotta have tea. You gotta have tea."
Yeah.
I can't stand it, man. It's like.
I don't mind it. I mean, I do like a good warm tea with honey. Sometimes I will get like green tea and put honey on there if I know my voice needs a little bit of extra pick me up for a show.
Yeah.
I will go to Wawa. I'll get the whole 24 ounce of green tea, and I'll throw a couple packets of honey in there, and usually that'll do good for me. So,
nice.
but coffee, I'm usually a coffee person first before tea. Sometimes I have to be.
Every day,
sometimes I have to be in the mood for tea. But coffee is like, if somebody offers me coffee, I'm like, yeah, duh. Like,
at this point for me, I'm just like, I don't get the point of tea, man. Like, I'll do hot water and honey, and maybe a little lemon to help the throat. But somebody would offer me those same ingredients, the hot water, the lemon, the honey, and then say it's black tea or say it's any kind of tea. I'm just like. It's like, no, it's gonna ruin the taste, the honey and the lemon. I'm like, I can't. I could never get on board. I couldn't do it. But yeah. Anyway, what we got next? What's up?
Looking. This is a good one. Simpsons or Family Guy?
Neither.
Really?
Is that an option? Yeah.
It can be. Yeah.
I mean, if I had to choose the two, I'd probably say Simpsons because I would watch that growing up a little, just if it was like on the TV.
Right.
You get home from school and it's like, all right, a little bit later on, mom and dad are out of the room. All right, we'll put on some Simpsons. We'll try to watch a quick episode when no one's home or no one's watching. But
yeah.
No, I don't know. I just never really got into either one of them, and I don't know. That's just me. I'm more of a Marvel comics guy.
Okay, all right. Then that'll be one of our that'll be one of our next ones. But yeah, Family Guy for me. I'm a big Family Guy person. I
Nice.
never got too much into The Simpsons. I watched them before, but it never I never got too attached to The Simpsons, and I had a lot of friends that were big Family Guy people, and that pulled me in. And I'm a sucker for good comedy, and I'm a very easy person to make laugh. So if you make me laugh pretty quick, I'm gonna continue to watch a show. So So speaking of Marvel and DC and everything, Superman or Batman?
Superman. Batman's just a rich capitalist. We don't like him. We don't like Batman anymore. It's 2021. We're crossing out Batman. He's done. He's over with.
Well,
that's my opinion. That's just my opinion.
That's your opinion. Batman's here to stay for me.
Yeah.
89 Batman, brother. I'm all about it. And I'm stoked to see Michael Keaton, reprising his role in the new Flash movie. I cannot wait. Even if it's like a 10-minute scene, I will be there to watch it. But I heard he's actually going to be doing more with not only the movie, but I think they're in talks with him to do something else with Batman, like more extended. So I'm like, yeah, because I definitely want to do that. I've been waiting to see that since like the early '90s too.
So I gotta ask you then. I got a this or that for you. So
Okay,
with that said, this or that, Marvel or DC?
all right. So
Come on, quick. We
gotta be
what?
quick. And I gotta say, if I'm being quick with it, I gotta say neither, because I really didn't get into the comics. I just liked Batman because he was a superhero. I never really got into the comics of Marvel and DC back then.
But the movies themselves.
I didn't get into really watching Marvel movies until my buddies not necessarily forced me, but they were getting into like the Infinity War, Endgame,
Yeah,
and I'm like, all right, well, I feel out of the loop. Let me go start watching like these tons and
yeah,
tons of Marvel movies, and I started liking a few. And I
yeah.
like how you have to necessarily watch all these in order to understand where we got to with the Endgame and Infinity War. So and I'm starting to understand why there's like this big war between Marvel and DC, and I understand why people are like, well, DC is this and Marvel's doing this right, while DC is like, what, we can't get this right and everything. I'm like, and I can understand, because I think with a lot of DC films, like, they cannot keep the same actors. Where Marvel,
Yep.
you're always seeing the same actors, and that's pivotal for when you're having those many superheroes and actors. It's kind of important for those actors to stay on, because unless there's like a scheduling problem or something, God forbid, does happen, then you
Yeah.
gotta. But like, I feel DC like, how many Batmans have there been since Michael Keaton?
Yeah. Yeah.
It,
Like, but you take Marvel and you got what, at least over a decade. You got Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. So over a decade, you have all of these kids, teens, adults growing up
yeah,
side by side with these characters,
yeah,
seeing their progression on a character level, but then coming back and being like, oh, it's the same guy. And there's like almost, a connection that you can build there with that person. And it's funny that you say neither, because when you asked me for Batman or Superman, I almost said neither, because I cannot stand DC. I can't get on board, man. I am Marvel all the way.
And
I
I can
was
understand why
watching.
people say Marvel, just because the things I was saying before, that like, you're Marvel's doing pretty well with keeping the same characters,
Yeah,
and having them come back and reprise their roles for almost every single movie, where sometimes that doesn't happen with DC all the time. Like, how
yeah,
many Spider-Mans have they changed? How many Batmans have they changed? And like, vice
yeah,
versa, you never always get the same person reprising that role for so many movies. So it's like, you get used to one character, and then they say, oh, okay, we're changing the guy again. Like, then you have to get used to a new guy. Like, can he fit the same shoes as the last person? Because you may have liked this one, you're like, he needs to stay. But
yeah.
creative differences happen, and X amount of things happen. It's understandable.
But
But
but with just what you said, even with how many Batmans and how many Spider-Mans, all it took was Disney saying, yeah, we want Spider-Man. They bring Spider-Man over. You can fight about the merger, whatever you want. You can agree,
yeah,
disagree, but they got Spider-Man now. It is what it is.
uh-huh,
They put together not only, two or three great movies with him, but now what are they doing? Supposedly, I don't know if it's true, but with all of the multiverse hints, they are finding more or less a loophole to say, oh, we can bring back those other two
yeah,
guys that played Spider-Man and pulling it all together.
exactly.
Like, DC can't do that. DC can't take their 10 Batmen and say, ta-da. No. Then
No.
everyone's like, nah, you're too late. You're too late on the
Yeah.
roll. But man, I love Marvel so much, man, and I could talk for days about it. So I'm gonna try to cut myself off,
No,
because
it's
I
all
know
good,
we're
and I'm starting to, like I said, I'm starting to realize why Marvel is doing so good, because I think they're putting out good products. They're giving you all this different types of content, and not that DC hasn't put out good content. It's just like, I don't know. Sometimes, I haven't watched enough to really probably make this statement, but it's like, sometimes, like, okay, sometimes it just doesn't make sense.
yeah.
So it's like it's hard to kind of stick with certain things, especially when you have new characters playing the same role, or
Yeah.
you're interchanging characters and changing them up almost every couple movies. So
I think the
Marvel's
great
doing
thing
good
with
stuff.
Marvel is able to say, whether it's the multiverse or the timeline or whatever you want to do,
Yeah,
they have a they do a great job of saying, we're going to intertwine all of these different plot lines. So you're going to see Thor in this movie, you're going to see Loki in this episode, and just the way that they just wrap it up in this nice perfect little bow almost every time, it's just amazing to me. It feels like they know what they're doing, and when I watch, I'm so excited because yeah, I might get an idea of what's to come just based on all of those superhero, concepts that we've grown up with, that we're like, oh yeah, this is going to happen here, this is going to happen here. But I always feel like they're able to throw in some sort of curveball, whether that is the ending credits or Infinity War. The bad guy actually wins,
right.
Sorry for the spoiler alert for whoever hasn't
I mean,
seen it
if
from
you
four
haven't
years
watched it
ago,
at this
but
point, then it's fine.
yeah, but like you said with DC, I feel like it's more of like an artist piece than anything else.
Yeah,
What was it? The Snyder cut. They had to make it this long, drawn out thing, and I'm like, guys, what? You're just digging yourself into a deeper grave here. Like,
yeah,
what?
man.
Why are you doing that? But
Yeah, again, like I said, we could
I
probably go on that.
rest. I
Like
rest.
that could be a whole nother podcast. But yeah, man.
Yeah.
So I think we'll do one more here, and this is
All right. Cool.
this could be a decent one. So, a long drive or a long walk?
Long walk. Long walk easily.
Hmm.
I feel like a long walk, you're able to, it can be a long walk for many reasons. It could only be a mile, but that mile
Yeah,
could be a very long walk because
right.
you're taking time to just embrace the world around you, and that was like one of the things with the 5 a.m. club thing. I started getting up and just going on long walks in the morning every
Yeah,
once in a while, and just seeing the world and nature before anyone or anything woke up, before the birds were even chirping. That was a special thing, and to hear the birds actually waking up and being the one to like see and hear that happen, that was just so beautiful.
hmm
And I feel like with long drives, I have too many bad memories of just like getting stuck in traffic and just all that stuff. So I not a fan of long drives. I could do
and
with a lot less of
like
those.
I do enjoy a long drive. I don't mind driving, and I feel, I mean, and I do like a good walk as well. But I don't know. I feel when you're on the open, not even just like when you're in traffic, it's not a good thing. But like when you're on when you're on a good long open road or not many
Yeah,
cars on the road and you're just cruising, I feel that it's like, especially if you're in the car by yourself, like you can have that.
yeah,
You turn off the music. You're paying attention to the road, but you're in that zone of like and you can have that moment of like okay, you're just like cruising down and you can get in your thoughts of like kind of almost similar to what you were saying, like you have that moment of just like thinking outside the box and like when you're
yeah.
walking. So it's, I mean, I do gotta say, if I were to pick one, I would say drives, but I do enjoy both. So I think you can kind
Nice.
of get the same feel out of it. It just depends on how you take it. I think you can kind of get the same end results with each in a way. It
Yeah,
just depends on how you feel with it.
yeah, yeah.
So that was this or that. And before we get into this last little thing, I want to say thank you everybody who's been tuning in tonight. This has been Table Talk. Tonight's guest is Owen Crowley, and he is a singer-songwriter and music producer, and a very good long friend of mine. Who we've played a couple shows together back when we were a little younger, and I've been very honored to have been able to talk with him tonight about some upcoming music endeavors and what he's been up to the last couple of years. But I do want to ask you one more thing. Like, how did you come up with the name Enly, and what are your inspirations for your movements for this new solo project?
Yeah. Well, first, thank you so much for having me tonight. It's been great, getting to catch up with you on
Absolutely.
on life and just everything, and just being here is really awesome. I'm so happy for you that you have this now. I'm so honored to be on episode 26.
Thank you.
Hopefully I'll come back for 126, and
yeah, man,
you're just gonna keep pushing along. Just keep doing it, man. I'm loving this.
Appreciate it.
As far as Enly, I actually came up with it 2 months ago. Didn't even come up with it myself, but one of my buddies, when we were down the shore, we're goofing off, we're spitballing a whole bunch of names. This is like the end of June, I want to say, and I'm like, do I just go by Owen Crowley? Like, yeah, I got the self-love thing going on, but I don't want to go by my name. It's boring, it's lame, I don't want to do that.
That's kind of how I felt with me. Like, I never thought of my name as like a marketing tool. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I always liked the 2 first name gig because my middle name is Charles. So after doing the spoken life thing, I'm like, Anthony Charles. I'm like, okay, that kind of sounds better than Anthony Irvin, but I've already marketed myself into spoken life. So I'm like, well, yeah. I probably missed that target, but I've always I've never really liked my full name as like a marketing tool. So that's why, I started looking up stage names because I always liked, I'm not sure if you heard of the artist Dallas Green or City in Color. So I always liked, he was a big influence in a lot of my music, and I always liked the City in Color thing, and he would always present himself as like, hey, my name is Dallas Green and this is City in Color. So it's like, nice. It's almost like you're in a band, but it's a representation of yourself. So that's what made me really get to the stage name and what birthed Spoken Life. And it took me a couple, songs and EPs to really understand, what this name really means to me. So it just came out of nowhere, but it's like, it fell from something, and it's like, it's taken on the true meaning of like how, I am. So
that's awesome, man. And that's beautiful. I love what you're saying, where it's, he's saying how he's, hey, I'm Dallas Green. This is, it's exactly the same idea I wanted to go for. We're talking so much about self-love and mental health and all that stuff tonight. I think for me, as I was growing, I really felt like, just being honest, I really struggled with loving myself at all. I really had a lot of issues with that. And, that was tied into all of those struggles. And because of that kind of led into this idea of like, what, if I can't love myself, I'm gonna just be whoever I want to be. And that then inspired me to love myself even more for making that decision.
Yeah.
As crazy and convoluted as that might sound to some people, if you're out there and you're struggling with, self-love, and you're like, I'm whatever, this is whatever, no one cares about what I'm doing, then you care about what you're doing.
Right.
Be the thing that you want to care about, Yes. So I said, what, I'm going to choose a name. I didn't even end up choosing it. My buddy said on a Friday night, you should be Enly. And then I'm like, nah, that's like Don Henley. Why? He didn't tell me. All weekend, we're playing poker. We're having a great weekend. End of the weekend comes, late night, and he hits me. He finally goes, dude. I'm like, what? Where are you coming up with this name? He goes, Owen N. Crowley Lee. N. Lee. And I was like, oh my God. Mind blown. And I was like, you know what? It's simple enough. It's beautiful. I love it. We're rolling with it.
And it rolls too. It does. So yeah. Hey, tops off to your buddy, because that was like he couldn't have done like a better name for that, because when you just said like first name Owen and the EN and then Crowley Elliot, like wow. And like, I never thought of it that way, and I'm like, whoa, that's awesome now.
And it's great, because everyone's always like, with Perpetuals or all the other bands I was in, it was like, what's the deep meaning behind your guys' name? Like, you guys got to have some like spiritual, mystical meaning. And I'm like, nah. O-N Crowley. Boom, done. There it is. Take it or leave it. Enjoy it. Have a great night.
Like, you really want to know? I did a Google search for a band generator, and it just came out.
Oh my God.
There's your inspirational meaning behind it. Thank you, band Google, generators.
Baby. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't get a royalty check, but they do get a little bit of credit.
Yeah, my buddy's gonna be asking for millions, hopefully one day.
Yeah.
Knock on wood. Knock on wood. We'll see what happens.
There you go.
I'll owe him a check down the line if anything happens, but we'll see.
Absolutely. So, you're saying you're in the process of getting some new music out. It seems like you don't have like a set date, but you're trying to hopefully get something out this year or, beginning of next year. Is that what you're saying?
I think the goal right now is to drop the first song or like quick, couple of songs just to be like, hey, I'm back. I'm going by this new name. Just drop 2 or 3 songs at once kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
I'm looking at October, November. I think it really just depends on how, these next couple of weeks go in terms of trying to nail down which of, we narrowed it down from 20 or 30 down to 10, down to 5, down to like 3 or 4 now. And it's like, all right, now I just got to sit down and say, okay, let's record, let's actually do this thing and take those demos to the next level. And, I got to set up the time, it's that's always the biggest struggle for me. I got the voice memos, I got the ideas, but they're just sitting there and no excuses, I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. tomorrow and we're just going to go. We're just going to start,
Yep.
Just got to get after it.
And, from waking up early in the morning, you do have a sense of like when you get a lot of your stuff done in the morning and you realize, oh, it's only like 8, 9 o'clock. I still got so much more of the day.
Yeah.
Instead of like, you're waking up at like 8, 9 o'clock and you're like, oh, it's already 12 o'clock. Half my day is already ruined. So,
Yeah.
I when I'm waking up at like early mornings and you feel like you've like went through a full day, but then you look at the clock, you're like, oh geez, it's only 9, 10 o'clock. Like this thing's like dragging all day. But then it's like, well, you have so much more of the day and you have much more time to really do what you want. So it does have
it's how you want to look at that. Yeah.
It has its pros and it has its cons. For me, it's like, I'm really waking up at 5:30 right now. Like, come on. But then on the pro side, like, but you have so much like more time to do stuff. So it's like, and again, it's like in that more of like a time management thing. And that's like, I think as we get older, we really emphasize into learning more about time management.
Yeah.
Because when we're kids,
it's one of the best thing.
When we're kids, we just want to get out, do something, sleep in. And then we wake up at like 11, 12 o'clock. Like, okay, what are we doing tonight? And then you're up all night. And then, but like when you get into like your, past your 25 into 30s, then you're like, okay, let me structure out my day and see what I'm doing. What's on the clock today?
you're not as fresh as 15 anymore. It's a lot tougher to pull an all-nighter with some buddies and then
you realize you can't roll with the college kids on a Thursday night as good as you did when you were in your 20s. When you start getting like 33, 34, you're like, oh crap, like I gotta wake up in the morning to go to work. Like maybe I should tap myself off.
Yeah. I'm gonna save it for the weekend.
Yeah,
the one weekend for the year, and then next year I'll take a year to recover. Meanwhile, they're doing it every weekend,
right? Like, dude, you guys are going out tomorrow night. Like, I can't do that. Like, I got stuff to do tomorrow, man.
Yeah. Either that, or you're still in bed for the next 2 days trying to recover. And you're
exactly.
Like, oh man, I can't. But that's I got to be honest with you, man. As crazy as the 5 a.m. club has been for me, all of the mental health stuff I was working on, I haven't really been sharing it with too many people, but I'm just about a month and a half sober.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I got to some pretty, scary places last year, and I finally recognized that alcohol was a big part of that, and separating myself from it and saying, this is what I want to be. I want to have control of my life. Mm-hmm. I don't ever want to feel like I did when I drank alcohol, which 9 times out of 10, I felt out of control. It was never just one. It was however many. So no more crazy late nights for me, at least. So my recovery time's gotten a lot better because I don't even have have anything to recover from other than, maybe staying up too late one night.
Right. Well, congratulations with that, man. And, good luck with everything. I know it's like a very big achievement when you get to those type of achievements, especially when it gets to like multiple months and even like the first year, so we're all rooting for you, and
Thank you, buddy.
keep moving forward, man. And
I appreciate
again, like it's good that we have music and that kind of keeps your mind going to kind of keep you focused. There's always something, I think, in recovery where you have to have something to keep your mind focused and forward, to not have you have to really think about certain things like that. Again, it could be more easily spoken than some things. I mean, but I think with people that don't have something to really fall back on, like not even music, but just like artistry or some type of hobby, if they don't have something, it's easy for somebody to relapse and get into something. But it may take people a couple times to really realize that. And some people like you that may have realized it on the first try, like that I don't need this in my life, and this is something that I don't really need to, and it's kind of put me in a bad spot. So I've realized that, and now I have something to kind of keep me focused, so I don't have to be that type of person. I love myself when I'm not in this type of mood, and I don't want to continue to be like that for other people and myself. So exactly, I give my whole gratitude for your whole new aspects, and again, good luck with it, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I really appreciate you having me on tonight too.
Absolutely,
it's
man.
really
I was just going to say thank you for being on here, and thank you all for joining me tonight. This has been episode 26 of Table Talk. We will be back in another 2 weeks with another episode, and make sure you guys are following us on Facebook, Twitch, and if you're watching later on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Podbean, make sure you're following us over there, subscribing, write a review. Even if you don't listen on Apple Podcasts, just go over there, write a little review, just give a thumbs up. It really helps us out. So thank you all for being here. And if you're part of the Patreon, make sure you go and subscribe to the Patreon. You guys will be getting that bonus footage very soon with me and Owen. And so thank you all again, and we'll be seeing you on the next episode of Table Talk, guys. Have a great night.